Setting up your environment. I recommend having in your project folder at least 3 subfolders, one for design, all your Illustrator files and other design files, one for documentation, for example, all the screenshots you take and the documentation report you write, and one for your actual product, the part of the project that is supposed to go on the web page. But for following these lessons and doing the exercises, I recommend that if you go a level up and next to your project, you also have a folder for lessons, everything I'll demonstrate in the videos that you can replicate there, and also a folder for the exercises that you have to do on your own. So let's start with lessons and open it in brackets. So here we are in brackets, and as the very first thing, I'm going to create an HTML file. Let's just call it index.html, and also a CSS file, style.css. And what I want is I want an HTML file with some CSS that I can then manipulate with JavaScript. As mentioned in this course, all the JavaScript we do is for manipulating HTML and CSS. So I want some HTML to get me started. And I'm using the plugin Emmet to get a quick HTML structure. You might have another one like Skeleton. We just want something like this. And then I'll call my document Introduction to JavaScript. And I want something that I can recognize later in my game. So I want kind of a I want my div here, the ID game, and inside that I want a ball, another div, ID ball, and that would be my ball container. As we remember, we need a container, and inside the container we need a sprite, and that doesn't have an ID, just a class sprite. That is my ball sprite. And now I need the CSS to set it up. So far, if I start this, nothing is really showing. Just see if I can get them next to each other. So first of all, I want my ball container to be positioned absolute so I can move it around. And that also means that my game should be position relative. So the ball can move absolutely inside that relative container. And the sprite should then be visible. Ball container. And the sprite inside of that is going to have a size, say, with, let's just say 20 wee, so we can see it, and a height of 20 wee, and a background color of red. Now we should have something. We don't have anything because I forgot to include the CSS. So that will be like link CSS. Here we go. Now we can see a red box. I want it to be a ball. So I'll just give myself a border radius of, say, 50%. That would make it a circle. And just for fun, I'm also giving it a border of 1 wee solid black. That's a bit thick. Let's make it 0.5. So now I have my ball here. And I want some animations on that ball so I could try it out and get it moving. And I think first I want the container to fall down the screen. So something like in my coin clicker. So let's make a falling animation. And I'm making it as a class here. And now just for testing, just for seeing that it works while I'm building it, I'm going to add it as a class here, but I'll have to remove it later. I must remember that this is temporary. So I build this, and that would be an animation name. Let's just call that falling as well. No, let's call it calling key KF, so I know that it's the keyframe. So I don't mix up the class name and the keyframe. And I also need the animation duration, just 1 second, and the animation iteration count, and I always set that to infinite for starters. And then if I make the keyframes falling KF, it's not necessary to use this KF, but it's nice so you don't confuse this falling with this falling. So that would be at 0%. It should be at top position 0, and at 100%, oh, there's a lot of brackets here. It should be at top position of 100 VH. So now my ball is falling, and you can see it slows down as it reaches the end. So I might want the timing function to be linear. Then it falls gradually. I get this scroll bar. Those of you on Mac computers don't get this scroll bar, but it's quite annoying, and the reason is that the ball moves outside the game here. So if I just set the game overflow to hidden, then we should be able to not see the ball at all. That's because I don't have a size on the game. Let's just give it a width of 100% and a height of 100 VH. 100 VV. You know what? I think I would set those values to be at a correct aspect ratio. So it would be 100 VV wide, and it would be 56.25 VV tall. That's a correct 16:9. And I can just see that I need to remove the margin from my body. Now I have this nice game background. I'm going to give it a color so I can see the difference between the game background and the rest. Just a random color. This one is fine. And the ball, it should really start from above. And the ball is how tall? 20 VV, so I'm going to start at minus 20 VV and stop at 100, maybe 110, just to give it a bit more.
Hi, it's me from the future here. I just realized that using 110 VH as the end of the animation is a really bad idea when the height of our game is only 56.25 VV, so I should really use VV here rather than VH. So let's say 56 VW, or VV. When I say VV, I mean VW. I hope you get that. So maybe 56 is a little too little, but 60 would be better. So in all the following examples, please pretend that it says 60 VV and not 110 VH. Thank you.
Now I have the falling ball. It's a bit too fast. Maybe use 2 seconds. 3. Yeah, that's nice. So I have my falling animation and it works, and I'm going to turn it off again. To remove it like that, I don't need any class at all. Because now I know I can go into the inspector here and I can find the ball, not the sprite, but the container, and I can add the class falling like this, so it falls, and I can remove it again. And this is something that I at a later stage want JavaScript to do for me. I also need another animation. My idea is that when the ball falls, when I click it, it should stop and then it should disappear. So I'm going to make a disappear animation as well. That would be for the sprite. So let's make it down here. Disappear. And that would be another animation that I'm calling disappear. KF. And it should also have a duration of, I'm always starting with 1 second, and my iteration count is always infinite, and my timing function, I'm going to wait with that. And then I'm going to make the keyframes disappear. You know what? I'm going to copy it here because I can't spell. So, and at 0%, it should have a transform scale, I'm thinking, of 1. So it's just there. And at 100%, it should have a transform scale at 0. So if I give the sprite here, if I add the class disappear, then the ball disappears. It shouldn't reappear. So I'm going to make sure that it only runs once. And this should make it disappear. But it should stay disappeared. So I'm going to add the fill mode forwards here so it stays. And then when I add the disappear, it disappears. Excellent. But the thing is, I also wanted to stop. When I click it, I wanted to stop where it is. So if I just remove the falling class like this, then the ball jumps to the top. So I need to stop it. And there is this setting. I can pause an animation. And I need another class for that. Say, let's just call it paused. That's my class name. And I'm setting the animation timing function. No, not the timing function. The animation play state is set to paused. So if I have this and it's falling and I add the class paused, then it stops and freezes in its place, and then I can add the disappear to the sprite and it will disappear. So now I have everything ready for adding JavaScript. I just want to make perfectly sure that my HTML and CSS works before I'm starting JavaScript. So make sure you have some HTML and CSS that works perfectly, and then you're ready to start learning JavaScript.